England, well done across the pitch. I thought you had some really good players. Maro Itoje knows how to lead this team. They were down 12-0 at the beginning of this game. They came back to 12-11 at half-time, and then they kicked on with it and took the lead in the second half. That takes a good rugby team to be able to do that, and the All Blacks didn't have any answers. 25 unanswered points from the All Blacks in that period of the game. So it was England versus New Zealand at Twickenham today, and it was a game that everyone was expecting to be very close. And if you'd look at my preview video, I was one of those people. I thought the New Zealand All Blacks were going to win by maybe 1 or 2 points if the English bench didn't make the difference in the second half of this game. So how did it go? Well, let's go and sit in my favourite spot in the park and we'll talk about it. England versus New Zealand at Twickenham Stadium in London today. G'day everyone, welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark, and a huge thank you to all the people that are reaching out to join United Rugby Fans. Yes, we started a global not-for-profit organisation that's built for you, the fans of rugby across the world. Our aim is to give you a greater voice in the game so that we can address things like the refereeing issues, officiating in the game, investment in the game, and the growth of the game across the world, whether it be at a local level in your country or whether it be at a global level across the world. We want the fans to have a bigger say and to have a seat at the decision-making table. So that's why I've started United Rugby Fans, and we've got a great team of people helping us across the world now to grow this not-for-profit organisation. If you want to become a member, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is send me an email to the email address on the screen right now, and I will sign you up as a member and keep you updated with all the great things that we're doing across the world of rugby. So United Rugby Fans, that's the future, my friends. Okay, let's get on talking about this game. The All Blacks versus England. Steve Borthwick against Scott Robertsons. Scott Robertsons All Blacks going for what they are calling the Grand Slam of rugby this year. And England, well, they thought this was their best chance ever to beat the All Blacks, particularly with the way that they've been playing. I did say in my preview video, if you go back and watch it, that England is scoring 31 points in average so far at the back end of the season, and if you want to beat them, well, you've got to score that many points. Were the All Blacks going to be able to do that today? Well, the game got off to a very good start for the All Blacks, and they started to look like they were going to be able to put some early points on the English, but the English defence was good, and they were also good under the high ball, I thought, early on. Freddie Stewart started off very well for England under the high ball, and it was one particular take from him early on that got England up the field and took a little bit of pressure off from the English in terms of the All Black early pressure. Freddie Stewart unfortunately would leave the game with an HIA injury, and it meant Marcus Smith came on relatively a lot earlier than what Steve Borthwick had considered. This was going to be an important factor of the game because England, with their 6-2 split, had only Marcus Smith and Ben Spencer in the back line to come off the bench. The rest, of course, were going to be forwards that Steve Borthwick could use later in the game if there was going to be no injuries. Well, the All Blacks only had to wait until the 13th minute mark before they got over the English line for a first try, and it was a very good work try. There was a lot of build up to the try, multiple phases from the All Blacks from one side of the field to the other. The ball came out to Lester Fainga'anuku finally, who found his way over the line with a couple of Englishmen on his back that weren't able to hold him up or stop him from getting over the line. So good strength, good body height from Lester Fainga'anuku. He went over to score the All Blacks' first 5-pointer in this game. And at that early stage, you probably thought, yes, the All Blacks have got off to a good start here. Only 13 minutes on the clock. They're over for their first try. They did some good build-up work to that particular try, but the English defence was looking pretty good. Were they going to be able to withstand an onslaught from the All Blacks? Beauden Barrett missed the conversion from wide out from the All Blacks, so they were up to 5 points to nil after 14 minutes of play. And the restart for England, well, it didn't go too well. George Ford put the ball out on the full, and it gave the All Blacks an immediate opportunity to get back onto attack from a line-out. It was a big mistake from George Ford, and it gave the All Blacks the opportunity straight away to go back on attack, which they did in spades. And they were playing again left to right and going back across the field. And then finally, Cody Taylor got a great pass out on the left-hand side of the field and went over for a try. So the All Blacks put back-to-back tries together within 5 minutes of this game, and this is exactly the way that England didn't want to start the game, by giving the All Blacks an early lead. So a very good try from Cody Taylor. Beauden Barrett got the radar on and he got the conversion over, so the All Blacks were out to 12 points to 0 after 18 minutes of the game. And England, they were on the back foot. Cam Roigard was playing brilliant for the All Blacks. He'd done a couple of really good things in terms of getting the ball out and clearing it for the All Blacks. His left foot kick is fantastic, and he was able to do that on a couple of occasions when he had ball in hand. He also did a couple of runs on a couple of occasions and looked very deadly for New Zealand. So in that first 20 minutes, I gave it to the All Blacks. I thought they started off a game exactly the way that they wanted to. Now, were they going to be able to push on with it and score some more points, or were England going to come back into the game? Now, the first thing England tried to do was to get their line out under control. They lost 3 early line outs in this game and it just wasn't working for them, and I thought that was really well played by the All Blacks. And we had a change to the All Blacks locks in this game. Scott Barrett was back in after injury. Fabian Holland didn't make the start of the game due to illness, and that meant that Josh Lord was coming in to start the game, and we'd see Sam Dowie off the bench for the All Blacks. So quite a big change. But as we've known, Josh Lord has put in a couple of big performances from the All Blacks, and I thought he started off once again in this game very, very good for the All Blacks, and they were disrupting the line out for the English, and they weren't able to get on top of that for quite a while. But it was going to be England that then started to grab the momentum in this game, and after the All Blacks had scored those 2 quick tries, England really got back into the game and started putting the All Blacks under pressure. And it was that man Ollie Lawrence that was doing some really big busting runs from number 12 that were causing the All Blacks defence a lot of issues. He was opening up the All Blacks, and it was giving the English, particularly their breakdown forwards Underhill and Earl, an opportunity to get in there and turn over quick second phase ball for England to go back on attacking raids again. And we arrived at the 24th minute of the game, and Guy Pepper for England was down with what looked like to be a serious injury. But 1 minute later, when play resumed, it was that man Ollie Lawrence that went over for a fantastic try for England, and it really changed the momentum in the game. It got them back in the game. So for all the All Black supporters that thought they were going to run away with this game after those quick 2 tries, well, they were stopped in their tracks, and so were the All Blacks. So the response came from England right at the right time. They got themselves back onto the scoreboard. It was a fantastic try from them after multiple phases put together, and it was that man Ollie Lawrence who'd started off the game really well who went over for the try. George Ford missed the conversion, so 12-0 came to 12-5 in favour of the All Blacks. And I thought the next team to score was going to really change the momentum for quite some time in this game. Would it be the All Blacks putting on some more points and getting away from England on the scoreboard? Or were England going to be able to score and get the crowd right back into this game in terms of getting close? Well, we saw a very big attacking raid from England. They got close to the All Blacks line, and a critical line-out was stolen by Simon Parker, a good play from the All Black forward number 6 who was playing in this particular game. And then next up, it was England's turn to be able to clear from the line, and Marcus Smith did a fantastic kick that went right down into the New Zealand half and gave the English an opportunity to release the pressure they were under from the All Blacks, because the All Blacks were camped down in the English 22 and looking dangerous to score some more points. On the 30th minute mark of the first half, we saw a brilliant break from Leroy Carter from the New Zealand All Blacks down the right hand side of the field. He started inside or just outside of his own 22, got to the halfway, put a kick ahead, he regathered the ball, but the English defence were good enough to get over and cover him on that occasion. It was a very good play from Leroy Carter, and when he did get the ball on attack, he did look dangerous and looked like he could get through the English defence. So there was only 9 minutes to go in the first half, and it was going to be that critical period of the game. Earlier in the day, I watched South Africa score that try just on half time that really rattled Italy, and it ended up changing the course of that particular game. Were we going to see something similar in this game from England, or were the All Blacks going to be able to kick on in the last 10 minutes of the first half, as we've seen them do many times in previous games? So England were down in the All Blacks 22 and really putting the pressure on the All Blacks, and it was George Ford, yes, that man in the number 10 jersey for England, that decided that he wanted to come away with points every time that England went down into the All Blacks red zone. So in the 36th minute, we saw a drop goal from George Ford, and it made sure the score came back from 12 points to 5. to 12 points to 8. It was a sweet drop goal from George Ford, and it was good for his team to get some more points on the board, and it kept them within touch as we got closer and closer to half time. But 2 minutes later, something really extraordinary happened. We saw a repeat of that particular play, and England, while down on attack again, George Ford took another drop kick opportunity and got that one over as well. So in the dying minutes of the first half, England had crawled their way back into this game from 12 points to 5 to 12 points to 11. 1 point in it at the half time, and this was going to be a critical factor as we started the second half. This was a great momentum swing for England. New Zealand definitely had the better of the first 20 minutes of this game, but England wrestled their way back into it, and what was impressive for me was their patience and calmness. They decided that they needed to beat the All Blacks in certain areas. They needed to improve the line out. They started doing that. They started going to Itoje, and he started getting them a little bit more ball. They also decided to go a bit longer in the line out, and that made a bit of a difference as well. The All Blacks were very good on defence at times in this. England had a lot of opportunities for kicking. Now, I thought the New Zealand defence was really good at times in the back end of that first half, keeping England out and putting them under the pressure where they had to think that that drop goal option was their only way of scoring points, and their discipline had been pretty good as well. So yeah, it was half time with 1 point in it, and as a lot of us had predicted, this was going to be a close game. But it was always going to hinge on what happened in the second half, I thought, and it was particularly down to the English bench and the difference that they were going to make. Last week, don't forget, it was 17 all against Scotland with 20 minutes to go for the All Blacks, and it was only through a bit of individual brilliance from Damien McKenzie that the All Blacks got out of that game. Were they going to be able to put in a consistent second half in this game, or were England going to be able to use that bench to their advantage? Whoever scored first, I thought, in the second half was actually going to have a great advantage. So the second half got underway, and we saw a change from the All Blacks. We saw Tamaiti Williams come on for Ethan de Groot, who'd had a bit of a knock. And in the next couple of minutes, well, a couple of big decisions and a big couple of actions that happened in the game. The first one is Cody Taylor got pinged for playing the ball on the ground. The referee decided that it was a yellow card offence, and Cody Taylor would go and spend 10 minutes in the sin bin. And the very next minute, well, it was an opportunity for England. They went deep on attack, and Sam Underhill went over for a very, very good try for England. This broke the game open for England. It put them front early on for the All Blacks. So the All Blacks had a big setback early on in the second half. They had a yellow card, and they had the try scored against them by Underhill, which was very well deserved from England. So 18 points to 12. England were in the lead now, and were they starting to get some ascendancy in the game? Well, it looked like it. And then a big thing happened for the All Blacks. Cam Roigard went off the field. So Roigard had been playing exceptionally well for the All Blacks, and whenever he's on the field, you just think the All Blacks have got a better chance. They seem to be more poised. He also saves them a lot in defence. We saw it again in this game when he was on the field. He was the last man standing in defence sometimes, holding up one of the English players when they went over for a potential try. So Cortez Ratama had come on after the 45th minute of the game. Quite a long time for him to endure. And the next play said a lot. The All Blacks got a penalty instead of kicking for touch, which they had botched up earlier thanks to Beauden Barrett at number 10. They decided to take a tap kick and run the ball. This was unusual for the All Blacks. They were lacking confidence in their line, in their touch finders. And this was a big problem, I thought, when you've got people like Barrett and Lord who were able to score good line-out ball, and you're not using that opportunity. This was actually giving England a little bit of an advantage. So New Zealand started using the bench, and in the 47th minute we saw Wallace Satiti come on as well, and we saw Simon Parker go off the field. Again, another game for Simon Parker where he really didn't stand out and do anything typically brilliant. He did have a good line-out steal on one occasion, but for the rest of the play, he's just not that visible in this All Black pack. Unlike Peter Lakai, who I thought was having a good game, had some very good carries in the first half and had continued to do that in the second half. Ardie Savea picked up a bit of a knock, it looked like, in the first half, whether or not it was impacting his game, but he was still in there doing Ardie Savea type things. Josh Lord, as I mentioned, was doing really well for the All Blacks, and the All Black front row, well, they were doing their best against England, but England was starting to get back into the game. And as the momentum started to shift more, particularly after England took the lead on the scoreboard, I thought England just felt more self-belief in their game, and they started putting more pressure on the All Blacks. Then a big moment in the game. England had a great break. It ended up with what everybody had thought, that George Ford had scored a try. but the play was brought back by the TMO, and eventually after a couple of minutes we found out that there was actually an offside play way back in the line out that had endured not only the knock on that had occurred during that particular play. So was that going to be a rue opportunity for England? Was this going to let the All Blacks off the hook and to be able to get it back into this game? Well, we would find out in the next couple of minutes. And it was the next couple of minutes where a couple of big things happened in the game. First of all, Damian McKenzie came on for the All Blacks. So Beauden Barrett, who I thought had a pretty poor game again, with some wasteful kicking in general play. He's kicking too much to Neville nobody, and it's not giving the All Blacks an opportunity to chase the ball. And he did that horrendous penalty kick as well, where he just kicked it dead in goal, and the All Blacks ran out of that opportunity as well. So Damian McKenzie, super sub from last week, came on with 26 minutes to go in this game. And was this going to be an opportunity for the All Blacks to show some impact with their impact players off the bench? Well, in the next minute we saw a brilliant 50-22 from George Ford, and he put England right down on attack, and it was looking dangerous again. He read the play absolutely brilliantly, George Ford. New Zealand were up and on the attack with England, and George Ford decided, well, we're going to take territory and go down and put pressure on the All Blacks inside their own 22. And that was a great opportunity for an attacking line out for England at that stage of the game. Well, England won the ball from the line out, and they started to pass it out through their back line, and before long they had an opportunity to set up a fantastic try. Quinn Tupaia missed the tackle, and Dingwall went through and scored a brilliant try for England, and this really rattled the cage of the All Blacks. It was going to be converted by George Ford, so the try that was disallowed just moments before was now taken back by England, and the scoreboard went out to 25 points to 12. So 25 unanswered points by England so far in the game after the All Blacks got out to that early lead of 12-0. This is not the game the All Blacks wanted to see, with England coming back into it and being able to consistently put points on the board, and that's what they were very good at as the second half continued. So New Zealand were under the pump, 25 points to 12 down, and there was just 20 minutes left in the game, and the All Black bench had come on. So we'd seen Damian McKenzie, Cortez Ratama, and also Anton Leonard-Brown, and I'd spoken in my preview video how concerned I was about the impact of this New Zealand bench. They weren't caught out last week, but just because of Damian McKenzie's little bit of individual brilliance, but it was 17-all, don't forget, with 20 minutes to go in that game against Scotland as well. That one, that went in the way of the All Blacks. This one, it wasn't going in the way of the All Blacks. And then as we headed into the 60th minute or so, we started to see England have a great opportunity, but it was blown by Marcus Smith. He got a ball deep in his own 22. He tried to run it out, didn't release the ball, and Leroy Carter had got over top of him and got his hands on the ball, and it gave the All Blacks a really good opportunity. Was this going to be the moment in the game when the All Blacks would wrestle back control from England and get back close to them on the scoreboard? Well, the short answer was no, it wasn't going to happen. So 63rd minute of the game, the All Blacks got deep down into the English hard. They had a 5-metre line out. The pressure was on England, and England came up with a yellow card after that particular play, and it was Ben Earl that was going to be sent off for 10 minutes. A critical time of the game. New Zealand down onto attack, England now down to 14 men, and a minute later we saw Will Jordan go over for his 44th try for the New Zealand All Blacks, and that puts him 5th on the all-time list now, if you're counting how many tries Will Jordan has scored in All Black history. 45 tries to the great winger come fullback, and he went under the post for the All Blacks. So the All Blacks were able to get back and get some points against England on this occasion. So the scoreboard came back with the All Blacks to 25 points to 19. So with 15 minutes left, the All Blacks had a job to do to try and get back against England. Josh Lord came off the field. Sam Darry came on for the All Blacks. He wasn't even thinking he was going to get a game at the beginning of the week, Sam Darry, but here he was playing in a very tight situation now. The All Blacks down, having to score next and get a try converted before they could get into the lead of this game. But the English bench went to work, and they started grinding away at the All Blacks and setting up opportunities. They were very good defensively. When the All Blacks ever started to look like running the ball, they were chopped down by the English defence, which was looking very patient and also very organised. When New Zealand were on attack, it was that man Henry Pollock that came up with a great steal for England at a critical time in the game in the 69th minute. So just 11 minutes to go, and the clock was now starting to work against the All Blacks. They were up against 14 men though, with Ben Earl sitting on the field. He was only going to come on with 7 minutes left in the game. So was this going to be a critical time for the All Blacks to try and score another try? Yes, it was going to be a critical time. Tactically, Steve Borthwaite was a little bit hamstrung in this game. He couldn't bring on Ben Spencer until about the last 7 minutes or so. And that's because they only had 2 back reserves in this game with a 6-2 split. And Marcus Smith coming on early in the game because of Freddie Stewart's HIA issue. And in the last 5 minutes of the game, it was all England. They owned the game. They won a penalty kick opportunity, which George Ford came up to and got a little bit of redemption after what happened last time between the All Blacks and England at Twickenham. And he was able to slot that one between the poles. It took England out to 28 points to 12. And at that stage, the game was in the bag. There was no way the All Blacks were going to get back. So in the 77th minute, England were able to put the nail in the All Blacks' coffin. And it came to that man, Henry Pollock, another bit of individual brilliance from him. He was impersonating David Beckham on this occasion with 2 little soccer kicks through. The ball bounced up to Tom Roebuck, who went over in the corner. And that was it. England were home by 33 points to 19. And there was no way in the world that the All Blacks were going to be able to get back into this game. George Ford didn't have to wait until the clock wound down. The game was going to be over and England had beaten the All Blacks at Twickenham. A well-deserved win by England. I thought they played exceptionally well in the second half, scoring 3 tries. And as I had said in my preview video, England was scoring an average of 31 points a game. If you wanted to beat England, you had to score more than 30 points. The All Blacks were unable to do this on this particular occasion. So what have we learned from this particular win from England? Well, I'd been saying in the beginning of the week that this game was really going to determine who was ranked 3 and 4 in the world at the moment, in my opinion. And I think we've got South Africa way out ahead. Daylight is second. France is second after them. And then we've got England, and then we've got New Zealand on current form. This New Zealand team is showing weaknesses in different areas that I've been talking about all year. When you take Cam Roigard out of the equation in this All Blacks team, they look fragile in defence, but also clueless when it comes to starting any attacking play. Beauden Barrett had another terrible game. I thought he was injured. I thought he got a knock, and I think that impacted him. But he made some bad decisions again, as I've been saying throughout this year. As I've been saying, I'd like to see New Zealand trying more people at number 10, and it just hasn't happened. And again, the weakness was shown again in this particular game of the All Blacks. They were clueless when it came to looking at decisions and making 10. And we saw it again when Damian McKenzie came on. He had 26 minutes in this game, but he didn't have the impact that he had last weekend. He was playing at number 10, and he wasn't making some of the good decisions. We saw him get caught with the ball on a couple of occasions. He also had a poor kick in general play, which just gave the ball away to England. If you're going to try and chase the game, you've got to keep the ball in hand. And that's what the All Blacks didn't do in that last 20 minutes of the game. They gave the ball away too much to England, in my opinion. What I thought was good from the All Blacks was players like Lester Fainganuku. He's grown on me. He had a good game. But again, we looked fragile when it mattered in the midfield. Yes, Billy Proctor did a couple of good things in this game. So did Quinn Tupaia. But when it comes down to these crucial decisions, Quinn Tupaia missed the tackle on Fraser Dingwall, who got in for the try. And also Billy Proctor was caught out on one of the occasions as well. So again, weaknesses at the critical times in games are costing the New Zealand All Blacks. We used to be able to nail these things in the past. We're not doing it anymore. And it's showing up in those key positions where people are not playing that well. I thought Peter Lakai had a good game for the All Blacks. I thought Josh Lord had a good game until he came off as well. And Scott Barrett, can't really fault him for what we saw. But again, is his leadership under the microscope because of the All Blacks losing and not remaining in the control of the game in that second half? That's one thing that Scott Barrett's got to take on the chin as the captain of this New Zealand All Black team. And what did we see from the bench? Anton Leonard-Brown, he's not an attacking player in my opinion, so there was no chance in that last 20 minutes where he was going to break the game open for the All Blacks. And that's another area that critically is concerning me in terms of the All Blacks' impact off the bench. And I've been talking about putting Beauden Barrett on the bench, finding another solution for number 10, whether it's Ruben Love or someone else. Then the All Blacks are going to look smarter off the bench, but they're not able to do it consistently off the bench. I thought the English forwards were much better in the second half. They got their line out sorted out. They were terrible in the first half in that area. and they started making waves in terms of doing those really good rolling mauls that put the All Blacks under a lot of pressure. That opened up opportunities for Ollie Lawrence, Fraser Dingwall, and also Faiwa Boso, who we saw do a couple of really good runs throughout the game. And I thought Marcus Smith on a couple of occasions was very good. He did cost England one of those tries where Will Jordan resulted in getting over for the All Blacks. But other than that, this was a good display from England. They're on a roll at the moment in the Autumn International Series, and they played thoroughly better than the All Blacks in the second half by taking their opportunities, and that's not what the All Blacks are doing currently. So it was a loss to the New Zealand All Blacks. Yes, it's disappointing, but it's also putting a caveat on their performances that we've seen so far this year. They were fortunate to get away with that game against Scotland, I thought, last weekend. It was only through Damian McKenzie's brilliance in the last minute that won them that game, and Scotland's poor decision making around strategy by kicking too much ball from the 60th minute. England didn't make that mistake today, and we saw the true reflection of this All Black team as a result of it. So when they get put under pressure in those key positions under key moments, the All Blacks have not got the answers, as simple as that. So yes, the Grand Slam is lost, and I'm pleased about that, because the All Blacks can go back to now thinking and talking about what's wrong with this team that's been there throughout the season. A loss to Argentina, a loss to South Africa, and a loss to England. Jeff Wilson and all those guys sitting in a studio in New Zealand are saying we shouldn't be losing to these teams. Well, we're not putting the right players in the right positions to make the right decisions at the right time. That's my rap, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I've been saying it all year consistently about this New Zealand All Black team. So now we're going to see a ring of changes, no doubt, against Wales, and everybody's probably going to be happy with that performance, but it's still a lot of unanswered questions as we go into 2026. And after that game against Wales, I'll give you my yearly report on this All Black team. But after this game, it goes back to being some of the things that I've been saying throughout the year, that the All Blacks microscope, when put under the microscope by a good team like England, like Argentina, and like South Africa, they haven't got the answers. All I can say is thank goodness we're not playing Italy next week, because that could be a little bit embarrassing as well. England, well done across the pitch. I thought you had some really good players. Maro Itoje knows how to lead this team. They were down 12-0 at the beginning of this game. They came back to 12-11 at halftime, and then they kicked on with it and took the lead in the second half. That takes a good rugby team to be able to do that, and the All Blacks didn't have any answers. 25 unanswered points from the All Blacks in that period of the game. Ollie Lawrence was a beast, while Bosso was good on the wing. When he got the ball, he looked dangerous. And I just really like the support play from England. They're very good. Ben Earl is huge. Tom Curry was good when he came on. And we saw other good performances as well. I thought Alex Cole had a good game in open play on occasions for England in this game. And they did what they had to do against the All Black scrum as well. There was no dominance once again from Jason Ryan's men up front. And the All Black pack continues to be a little bit disappointing in my eyes. Alex Mitchell was really good at halfback for England, but George Ford, for me, was the man of the game. He controlled the game. He silenced all his haters once again. 2 brilliant drop goals, great decision making there, the 50-22, and then that penalty kick under a huge amount of pressure to put the game beyond the New Zealand All Blacks. A great performance by George Ford and a well-deserved win by England. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this game. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Do you think England are really on a roll at the moment? What do you think needs to happen to this New Zealand team now? I'd love to hear from all the Kiwi supporters. What were the Kiwis thinking of the bench performance today? Damian McKenzie, Anton Leonard-Brown and Cortez Ratamo. I'd like to hear your views and opinions on that in the comments. And of course the impact of the bench in general when they came on for the All Blacks. But let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that. We've still got plenty of great international rugby coming up this year, and I'm going to be following it all here on this channel. I'm going to run inside now and watch Ireland take on Australia at the Aviva Stadium, and I'll be giving you my report later on that one as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, give this video a thumbs up and a like, and send me an email to join United Rugby Fans. Yes, the email address is on the screen right now. All you've got to do is send me an email, then you will be a member of United Rugby Fans. It's completely free, and we'll keep you up to date with all the things that we're doing and what we're planning across the world of rugby to give you, the fans, a bigger voice in our great game. Okay, until next time, it's adios from me from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. You keep well, keep safe, keep enjoying your rugby, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.